I would like to introduce our beloved founder, Dr. Sat Bhattacharya.
Good afternoon, everyone. And it's a pleasure to have you all here amongst us. And as always, we welcome. Some people wonder why we don't have a graduation ceremony and why we have an induction ceremony. Is because I've always felt that all of you young people and the parents, it's very important to start the dreams. We start the dreams new, and then you are all a part of our family, and we are your extended family. And so the parents are your immediate family, all youngsters, but we are your extended family. So we will be there for you, just like your parents and your family members, looking out for you. In fact, we had students from Harvard, MD, PhD students. Paulo is going to be in later on. So Paulo was one of my first students in 2001, and he got an MD, got a PhD. Then we have another person, Rena. We have another student, Princess Parker Smith, was from class of 2004, and she's going to be in from Chicago. She's working there. We have students, parents from Christian Garcia, whose mom and grandmother, they are strong people. And we want to honor the families. In fact, we have the honor of the National Spell Bee champion this year. And the reason why we are having it, he's obviously famous. He's been all over the place. He's been photographed, television. But we want to also tell the parent side of the story. And that's where the parents play and the family members play such an important role. And you all, even though you have multiple jobs, you have other issues at home, it's very important to take care of the child, or even to identify folks who can take part in the process. We will certainly be there for your child, not just as a child, but also as a young adult and therefore as an adult. That childhood doesn't end when people become adults. The child dreams remain forever. And as long as one can keep on dreaming, one can always be a child, and one can always create and survive in this tumultuous world. And this world is an exciting place because we have these dreams and we know how to take care of them, keep on dreaming, and be forthcoming in these things, encouraging more people to join in. And that's what we want to create. It was not just creating people with ideas and with science and technology. Anyone can get an education. Getting an education is not the only thing in life. It's a tool. It's a very important tool to succeed in life. But what you do with that tool also becomes extremely important. We have some of the best people in the world with almost no education, and we have some of the worst people in the world with some of the best education. Hitler comes to mind with some of the best people, and other people who've used education and tools of science and technology for the worst of humankind has ever seen. And we have other people who have almost no education, but yet they have risen to the top and done great service. And talking of service, service is extremely important. Service to humankind, to your fellow brothers and sisters, to your community members, it's extremely important. And service does not begin when you get your PhD or when you get your higher degree and then you're outside in the world giving your millions away. Service starts when you even start your process of learning. When you start your process of learning, you and all of us are also a selected few who have had the opportunity to get in that learning process. So as soon as we become part of the learning process, we have to start giving. The act of giving is also a very important part of an act of receiving as well. So service is extremely important, and this is what the parents and the young children should always know. Always reach out to your classmates who perhaps are not good in math and science. If you're good in something, give that something else. So you might perhaps get something in return. But don't wait for, I'm giving something only to get something back. that's not going to work, because people will ultimately find out that you are just dealing with things that you're trading. Friendship and love and affection, you cannot measure these things, and therefore we cannot have I give you a $1 bill and you give me $1 back or $2 back. It is something endless. Love is something very endless, and you're all a part of that love and the process of learning that you contribute, and also that becomes a very important part of the economic process. So when you love something, you tend to create more, you tend to compete with other people. It's a healthy competition. Competition is not necessarily a bad thing. It is a good thing, healthy competition. And try to help one another. Of course, part of the competition is also looking at other things too. Now, I started this long time ago, about 13 years ago, with just 3 students, because I thought, I'll do something else, and I didn't know that the program would grow to something different. But these 3 students are now all MD PhD students. One of them, Paulo Lizano, is going to join in from Harvard. I pulled him out. In fact, Susan Farnholz is here, one of his earlier mentors as well. And she was telling me, don't bother Paulo. He's busy in Harvard School. He's already MD PhD, running around the floors. But I can do that as a mentor. I can twist his arm a little bit. That he's gotten so much. Can't he have some time to talk to you guys? And that is very important, because he came from where you are, and that's the least that he can do. We have Princess, who's gone through our program, and you hear her mom getting such important pillars, especially mothers and grandmothers, your fathers too, and this is very important. Where we have this other student, Christian Garcia, who we sent to NASA in Florida. We used to have, in good times, about till 3 years ago, we were okay, but the last couple of years have been very testing. But we will do it, and it's the little train that could, and we will certainly keep on doing it. So when the time came to send Christian, who was a 14-year-old that time, to send to NASA in Florida, I get a phone call from Christian that I have made all the reservations, flights, and everything, but my parents are not allowing me to go. So I called. I told him, why don't you get them in? Can I talk to them? So they said, my grandmother is the one who calls the shots, and she's not allowing me, and she doesn't speak English. So then I said, why don't you bring your mom and your grandmother to the hospital? So they came to the hospital, and then I convinced, there's a language barrier. But that's the beauty of all things, that you don't always need language to communicate. It is the goodness of heart, and people. I could convince her, even through the barriers of communication. She didn't know English, I didn't know Spanish, but we were still communicating, and I could communicate to the grandmother that it was okay, we will take care of her, and finally the grandmother said okay, and the mom said okay, so he can go to NASA. And now he's an engineer, he's in Louisiana, and he's working there. His mom and his grandmother are getting the Parent of the Year award as well. So those are good stories. So parents are good stories. The other good stories are mentors. We have wonderful people. Dr. Robin Briel is here. Dr. Brennan is there. There's so many people around that play so much important lives. Now, mentors are the standing pillars. As we mentors, none of us get any money whatsoever. And we are the ones who will always be there for you and for the parents, not just as high school students and undergraduate students, but also when you are in grad school, or also when you're in the working environment. So it never ends. We are all connected to one another. When you're younger people, you need grants or you want to move ahead. And that's very important to us, because you are our extension, just like you are extension of your parents. If you do good, we feel good. If you do bad, we feel awful. And therefore, much responsibility lies on your shoulders from today, that that you take that responsibility to be responsible to the community, to yourself. It starts with yourself. Be responsible to yourself, study hard, look after people around you, and do well. And when that happens, obviously, we all feel proud. And we share in the process. We want to share that pride, just like the parents want to share the pride with you. And then you become a leader. Leadership is not something that you go to school for. Leadership is something that you develop on your own. And there are ways how you can develop leadership. And so there are wonderful schools that will teach you different ABC points of leadership. That's important too. But the real heart of leadership is service. When you do service with wholeheartedness, people will follow you, no matter what you do. And that is the true leadership. That's what I believe. There may be other courses too that one can partake. And we have wonderful leadership from the Senate here. Senator Cousins is one of these hallmarks. You hear from her, and she will tell you the story how she's the first African American senator in the New York Senate. And we have wonderful leadership here from New York City who are aspiring to hold office. We have wonderful congressmen and council members. And that's what we want to share with you, that people are there for you. And this is what is so important. Now, this webcast, we are also holding this in the Hopi Reservation in Arizona, in Kathmandu in Nepal, in India at the same time. Right now in India, it's about close to 10:30 at night. So the students are staying up, watching this and participating in it. In fact, we have the video feed of folks from Kathmandu in Nepal. So they're watching us. We cannot project it, but I can see it, but we can probably do it. Okay. So Basiru is also here from several years ago. He's also, all of the students start as high school students. Now, what I always believed, that you have to start from the time when you start thinking. And as high school students, and even lower, we've gone into middle school, get students early on, give them the little brains, and build them on. And it just doesn't end in high school. It carries on to undergraduate years. So we have 20, 25%, sometimes 30% of our students are undergraduate students, because those are very sensitive years. Young adults leaving home, going to distant college campuses, studying hard, you still are confused. You're confused even when you graduate. I have students who have graduated and who don't know what to do. I said, okay, come and work in the office. You have seen the front end, see the back end. You'll discover so many things, and also you'll discover career pathways, because you will come across so many people. You talk to so many mentors and all these things. That is when your confusion will end. And confusion is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's good to be a little confused, because that's when you'll find that struggle is important. If you don't have a sense of struggle, you don't know where you are, because the sense of struggle gives you a sense of purpose and where you want to take yourself in life. And this is where you'll understand, and you should have the right kind of people around you to guide you through that process. And not many people will understand that. Many of us who have not had university education may not know and may not be able to participate in the child's education process. But just by being there is just enough, just to know whether they are doing the homework, or whether after the lecture sessions here they come home and talk about it. Because you will learn something from them too. And I learn from my students all the time. And for example, IT, I'm almost a novice. I mean, I have a diploma in computers that was a billion years ago, but yet I bank on these students that have turned light years ahead of me. And so that's the wonderful thing of a teacher and a mentor, is a mentor and a teacher are always learning. So that process of learning never ends. And therefore we are children in many ways. And therefore, as long as you have the child in you, and therefore it's called Harlem Children's Society, you will continue to provide the right service, and you will continue to be a part of a network of people bringing in action out of its own. It has its own life, and then it starts churning its process, and you get involved. And I can keep on going, but I would like to initially went just a little brief history. With 3 students, it went on to 300 and 400 students. There were, till 4 years ago, we had 400 students just in New York alone, about 200 students across the country, and about 500 students worldwide, mainly in Africa and Asia. But the last couple of years have been some of the most trying times. All of our students used to get a hefty stipend, which is very important. I do understand, and that's where you have to hang on. Money is not the only thing in life. And so just hang in there. Good times will come again. It's already happening. Just have that faith, and hopefully we have wonderful legislators who are making things happen, and the economy is also changing. And we are the ones who also make those decisions. So it's very important to create that sense and move on. Otherwise, we'll be caught up in that sense of victimhood that we don't want to. We want to have good views and good thoughts to make things happen. It's only then you can invent or you can discover things. But last couple of years, and then we are slowly beginning to and I think the importance of science and technology is obviously very important. And many times you'll hear your jobs will be taken away. Obviously, your jobs can be taken away. Your jobs can be taken away by people across 7 seas, or your next door neighbor will take your job away. So what do? Your next door neighbor is as much as a competitor as someone living far away across 7 seas. So you have to get that sense and be able to learn. Be able to, Charles Darwin, the old theory of evolution is you constantly have to adapt. Education never ends, you have to constantly grow. And so as long as you are that child, the dream of growing, you will continuously be participating, and you will continuously be part of that sense of competition and move ahead in life. Because good times will come and bad times will come. And how we survive in the bad times are even more important than the good times, because everyone survives in those good times. But in the bad times, you will try your skill, your inner strength, and how you appear in front of other people. Because it's very easy to fail. But failure is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's a good thing, because you learn from those failures. And hopefully this is important. This is the chance in the summer that you'll come across very important people who will give talks. You will participate with some of the top scientists, engineers, and doctors in the country, and you will feel that you don't know anything. Many times you will be in a laboratory doing experiments, and I can tell you 80% of the times experiments don't work. As you might think, people in fancy lab coats and fancy laboratories are discovering things, but discoveries don't happen all the time. In fact, discoveries only happen less than 10% of the time. But we live, as scientists and doctors, we live for that 10% of the time, maybe just 2% of the time. So, and those are the important things. It's just that path that we take to that process that's more important, not the final outcome. We have the final outcome in our views, but we move forward with it.